When we take ourselves to be somebody, we take ourselves to be somebody who has an inner life and an outer life. And so everything is organized according to that inner and outer. Our inner thoughts, our inner emotions, our inner sensations, and then the people, places, and things outside us who cause us to have certain thoughts, emotions, and sensations. And so we see too, and this is just a matter of training. Many of us have been for decades in a training program to see things this way, to see that there is a subject and an object. Well, when we begin to rest naturally as the essence of our being, we see more and more that there really aren't two. But we can only know that when we rest naturally as the ease of being of whatever perception it is that comes up. Say it's something like wanting to leave our family and go into an ashram. And we have a longing to do that. We feel that urge come up in us. I can talk about this very openly because I've had that urge myself. Oh, why not just leave it all behind and go live a quiet life off in a hut somewhere? Or join some like-minded beings in an ashram or monastery. Oh, sounds like heaven to me. But the reality is that there was this deep passion here and longing in me to move in another way. That's just that when I realized who I've always been, that's something that realized itself along with that. So even though there may be these two options and all kinds of feelings that come up associated with it and plans that might be made and the way it would look and this sort of thing or the other, throughout that there's natural rest, the natural ease of being that then comes to an effortless conclusion about what the path of action is going to be. And this is more like the wind blowing than setting up camps of what's good and what's bad. It's like the wind blowing through space in between the trees and around the mountains, everything. So it's effortless, the way in which decisions or plans or actions come into being are effortless. And they're honoring of everything involved, honoring of all thoughts, emotions, and sensations as awareness, honoring of everything as awareness. When we decide that we are somebody, we have a life based on points of view. So we're the vast expanse of awareness, the pure view inclusive of all points of view. When we take ourselves to be somebody, then we're just all those points of view. We can't see that we're the vast expanse of awareness. When we are at ease as every single perception, more and more we realize that vast expanse to be ourselves. Less and less do we experience the bewilderment of taking ourselves to be somebody, of not understanding the true nature of point of view, and then taking everyone else to be those points of view too. So we take ourselves to be our points of view, we take everyone else to be their points of view, and we don't understand that all the points of view altogether have no independent origin other than awareness. So that's a life of bewilderment, just bewilderment about who we are. We just kind of walk around in a daze, not having any idea about the essence of our being, the essence of our completely perfect being, already fulfilled in its own place. Nowhere to go and nothing to get and no one to get it. This is a very important reality for us to be very familiar with. And, we can wait around for some kind of magical occurrence of sudden enlightenment, but it's unlikely that that'll come about. The tried and true reality of natural rest is effortless for all human beings. All human beings can count on that. We can count on that as the reality of what we are. These other things we can't really count on ever coming into a circumstance where instantaneously we'll be awakened. It might happen, but there are many people waiting for that. I think there's a long line. There's a long line for sudden enlightenment. A very long line these days. You know, because these days we can look it up on the internet. Well, where can I get sudden enlightenment? Google it, sudden enlightenment. See what we come up with. Is anybody handing it out today? Does anybody have the candy jar of sudden enlightenment? They're just handing out sudden enlightenment like pieces of candy. Well, yeah, I haven't searched that lately, but I have searched that, and it's not happening anywhere, I want you to know. There's a lot of talk, a lot of philosophizing about sudden enlightenment versus gradual enlightenment. The conclusion, though, is that enlightenment's neither. It's neither sudden nor gradual. It's beyond any kind of such trivia. It's beyond any kind of such intellectual speculation or representational thought. What is timelessly omniscient, how could that be put in a box of sudden or gradual or something that needs to be achieved? In other words, a path, a development stage, and then a fruition stage. What is timelessly so is timelessly so, even when we completely forget we're awake or we're aware and don't recognize that we're aware. We already are aware. So when we have that big bang, wow, even when I'm not recognizing awareness, I'm entirely aware. That's a very powerful moment. That's an extremely powerful moment, because what occurs there is that all points of view collapse in the basic space of awareness. When we realize that even when we don't recognize awareness, it's recognition of awareness. That's the exhaustion of all phenomena, the exhaustion of all points of view, the complete collapse of all points of view in the basic space of awareness. And then there's just huge laughter for everything we put ourselves through. You know, the hours we spent Googling enlightenment, awakening, what to do in India, which ashram to go to, what teacher to visit. We just really laugh because it's always so clear that this is what we've always been. And, it was certainly this way for me. I thought, oh, this is amazing. The only word I could say for days was wow. Wow. I have a very limited range of expression of the indescribable. Wow. And it's really preposterous to say, at least it felt that way for me, that here I've always been this, and it's not even, and it's like I was just looking slightly in the wrong direction. It wasn't like I was way off or anything like that, just slightly off, just ever so slightly off. If I had just moved my perspective a teeny bit, I'd see that I'd always been who I'd been without any perspective. Completely natural. And if you're wondering how I can spout off about all of this so authoritatively, about it already being accomplished, is that for me, I wasn't involved in any practice. I had never been to a guru. I didn't even know there was a non-dual perspective of awareness. I didn't know there was anything like that anyone could have. I thought, well, yeah, there probably is some huge overarching reality of everything that is, but I did not know it could be a direct experience. I definitely knew it was a reality, but I did not know it could be a direct experience of a human being. And like many of us do, most of us do, I faced a period in my life where all of the great solutions I'd come up with to living life, none of them worked. None of them worked at all. All of my efforts to make a life as an adult, this was 25 years ago, so I was a young adult. My efforts to make a life up to that point, and all the things I had included in that effort to make a good life, they didn't work when I was facing this dilemma. And rather than being able to find solutions, no matter how many solutions I tried to find, things just kept getting worse. They just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And as they got worse, all kinds of thoughts and emotional states started proliferating. Doom and gloom, total bewilderment, hopelessness, powerlessness, no way out, what to do, how to live 30 or 40 more years at least. In this state, I just didn't see it happening. It wasn't the way I wanted to be living, but at the same time, I didn't know what to do about it. Nothing would fix it, and I knew a lot of possible fixes. Philosophy, psychology, religion, no matter what it was I looked into, it just didn't avail me anything. And so in this total confusion, this maelstrom of everything that seemed to be going on inwardly, I suddenly realized that all of these things had an underlying basis, and that underlying basis, rather than being something separate from me, that it is me. That's what I realized. And I didn't even think of anything to call it. It was just relief. I just rested and there was relief. So anxiety would come up, the perception of anxiety, relief as that anxiety. So not relief over and against the anxiety, relief as the anxiety. Panic would come up, relief as panic. Paranoia, relief as paranoia. Hope, relief as hope. Hopelessness, relief as hopelessness. It didn't matter what it was. The whole world of opposites. And so gradually over a 10-day period, I became more and more familiar with myself as I am, rather than as I had taken myself to be. All these ideas I'd adopted from other people, willingly adopted. Oh, your idea about living? Sure, I'll take it on. I'll make it my idea of living to you. So all of these ways I'd adopted of being that I had found to be inconclusive, I found, I didn't need to do anything about them other than realize the complete relief that was the essence and is the essence of their nature. To realize that not one of these, no matter what they are, has any kind of independent origin other than relief, complete relief. And that relief is only because there's awareness of relief. There's awareness of relief. So relief. I returned to that again and again, rigorously, because I did not want to persist in my suffering. I'd realized the nature of my own suffering, this proliferation of points of view, this endless proliferation of points of view of taking myself to be someone. I deeply, thoroughly, completely got in touch with my own suffering. Without that, I would have had no motivation to look for relief. But you see, until there is that complete understanding of one's own suffering, there can't be any true motivation to seek relief. Suffering has to be looked at, and it needs to be decided that isn't the way I want to live. So with that total commitment to that, knowing that the end of my suffering had to be, and that if it had to be this relief as the immediacy of every perception, that's what it had to be. I didn't look for a destination. I just knew that as every single perception, I was totally free, completely free. And for the first time in my life, I felt free. I felt the relief of total freedom, of impeccable freedom, of timeless freedom, of totally sublime freedom. And I was completely willing to live the rest of my life like that. I thought that was great. I'd never known that there was anything like that existed. But after 10 days, then suddenly that's all there was, relief, complete relief. That's it. Seamless, vast relief. Without really needing to call it anything, inclusive of everything. Amazing, yet completely ordinary and natural. It was just so clear to me that everyone already is this. For a while, I thought, maybe I've just been clueless. Maybe everyone knows this. I just didn't know it. But then I could see that a lot of people didn't know this reality of our being. And And I found, too, that it could be easily communicated. If it was just put in simple human language, it could be easily communicated.